and at this point, Spanish golden visas will cease to exist as of the beginning of April this year. So there's still an opportunity to get a residency in Spain through property investment, but not for very much longer. But things are going to get, unfortunately, even a little bit worse than that. Hello everyone, this is Ted Baumann here. I am Chief of Global Diversification here at International Living, and I'm also the editor of Global Citizen, a special service where you can get exclusive documents about international migration, investment, and so on, as well as the opportunity to consult personally with me to plan your own international journey. Now, let's talk about Spain today. Spain is in the news and has been for some months now. It started out last year when Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, this is him there, announced his intention to end the Spanish Golden Visa program. Now, just to recap, a Golden Visa is essentially a long-term residency permit, usually 5 years, that allows you to live in a country, or rather to have residency rights in a country in exchange for an investment. Typically, those investments have been in the form of homes, or more recently, the emphasis has been on businesses or other kinds of economic investments. Now, the big advantage of golden visas is that you don't need to spend very much time every year in the country to keep them, but you do have residency rights, which makes them ideal for people who want to have a plan B in their back pocket, but don't necessarily want to make a move straight away. It's also a great way to get into a property market where property values are rising. Now, last year when Prime Minister Sanchez said that he was going to introduce a bill to end golden visas, there was initially resistance. The Spanish Senate said, we don't like that idea, but the Spanish Congress overruled them, and most recently they passed a bill, and at this point, Spanish golden visas will cease to exist as of the beginning of April this year. So there's still an opportunity to get a residency in Spain through property investment, but not for very much longer. But things are going to get, unfortunately, even a little bit worse than that. Recently, the Spanish government announced a proposal to slap a 100% transfer duty on property sales to foreigners. Now, what that would mean is that a residential property, whether it's a home or a flat or a condo, would effectively cost a foreigner twice what it would cost a local. Now, the intention of this is fairly obvious. It's to try to address citizen unhappiness with rising house prices and rental prices. Here's a picture of a protest in Spain. And as you can see, people are not happy about the rising cost of housing in Spain. Now, whether foreigners buying homes is the reason for these house price increases and rental increases, that's something that people are still debating. A lot of people say that the real problem is that Spanish home construction hasn't kept pace with population growth, which is a problem that affects many countries in the Western world. But the fact remains that under popular pressure, governments all over Southern Europe, including Portugal, have removed the property option from their golden visa offerings. Now, in this case, Spain has gone one step further. They've essentially canceled the golden visa altogether. But remember, golden visas are not the only ways to get property or to get residency rights in a country. You can also qualify through, for example, in Spain, what's known as the non-lucrative visa. It simply means that you have the ability to support yourself without having to work in Spain for a Spanish employer or for Spanish clients. So it's open to people who maybe are digital nomads, or for people who might be living on pensions, for example. The problem now is that it appears as though anybody who is currently non-resident in Spain who tries to buy a property will be looking at the possibility of double the price thanks to this rise in property transfer tax aimed at foreigners. Now, here's the catch. The first thing to understand is that this law is aimed at non-residents of Spain or the European Union. If you're a resident of a European Union country already, this won't affect you. For example, if you get a Portuguese D7 visa as a retiree or a pensioner or whatever, and you decide to buy a property in Spain, you will not face this extra transfer duty, at least as far as the current press reports state. The other thing is that people who already own properties will not be looking at any additional property taxes above and beyond what they already pay. This is just going to be for new housing. The problem is that if you are looking to get a residency in Spain and you want to buy a property at the same time, you've got to get the residency first before you buy the property, or otherwise you're looking at this high transfer duty, which effectively will double the size or double the price rather of the Spanish property. Now, just to repeat, if you get a Spanish residency visa, either as a retiree or a pensioner or somebody who can live on passive income or as a digital nomad, and you get that residency and subsequently buy a house, as I read it, you will not face this additional burden. However, if you try to buy a home before or while you're in the process of purchase or applying for the visas and you haven't got them yet, then yes, you could potentially face this. Now, this hasn't been passed yet, and again, there will be pressure, political pressure to try to stop this, particularly from the property industry, because they're the ones who will suffer. But at the end of the day, this reflects an ongoing concern about rising housing costs and more generally the rising influence of foreign residents in these countries. Now, this does not mean the end of residency in Spain. As I've explained, you could still get a non-lucrative visa, you could get a separate digital nomad visa, which comes with additional tax benefits and so on. If you're already a resident of another EU country, you can also bypass this additional property duty. Now, one of the things that a lot of people talk to me about when they come to me as part of my consultations here at Global Citizen is the possibility of getting a European Union passport. I would say that probably 1/3 of the Americans and Canadians I speak to have the possibility of getting a passport through Ancestry. And whenever they tell me that, the first thing I say is drop everything, go for it. If you think you have a reasonable chance and I can help them make that assessment, then you should do it because it solves most of your other problems. Once you've got a European Union passport, you don't have to worry about whether or not you face these kinds of additional hurdles, tax burdens, property taxes, all this sort of stuff, because you're now a European Union citizen. You have the right to live and settle and buy a home anywhere in the European Union, free from the sorts of targeted restrictions that are aimed at non-residents like this one. Now, whether or not you can get a passport in Europe, the fact remains that if you become resident of a European Union country, as the law is proposed in Spain, this will not affect you. So what we're seeing now is a rush by many people, particularly in Britain, who have historically bought second properties, holiday homes in Spain, particularly on the Mediterranean coast and on the Balearic Islands, Menorca and Majorca. But now they're saying, well, we need to actually get Spanish residency as well. And I think that may be part of why the Spanish government is doing this. What they don't want is people buying homes from abroad, not living in them for most of the year, perhaps renting them out as Airbnbs, and then not living in them long enough to trigger becoming taxpayers in Spain. People who become residents of Spain, for example, through the non-lucrative visa or the digital nomad visa, have to spend enough time in the country that they become taxpayers, which contributes to the government's coffers. So I think what's going on here is a shift that we're seeing right across Southern Europe, and in fact in many parts of the world, where governments are saying, look, it doesn't pay us to allow foreigners to buy homes to get residency. What we really want is for those foreigners to live in our country, become residents, and pay taxes. And at that point, you're like any other Spaniard or Portuguese or Greek or Italian, and we're perfectly happy for you to buy a home. So the bottom line is, if you're looking to obtain residency in Spain or anywhere else, in fact, in Southern Europe or Western Europe, contact me at Global Citizen and let's talk about how it would work and how you can avoid these sort of trip-ups that seems to be popping up every couple months or so in Europe. My job is to keep track of everything that's going on and to give you forewarning like I'm doing now, and then to help you make it happen. So give me a call. This is Ted Baumann signing off. I'll talk to you soon.